Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dimensional Fork in the Road Summit, where we are gathering with an inspiring group of spiritual teachers, light workers, shamans, and wisdom keepers to explore the fifth dimension and the road ahead of us. This event is designed to open space for each one of us to explore our evolutionary choices and to offer a tangible vision as well as practical tools to forge a high-frequency pathway for humanity. So step into this sacred space with us and immerse yourself in the consciousness of the fifth dimension. Here you will receive inspiration and high-level guidance to move through these transitional times and anchor a high-frequency reality for yourself and for the planet. My name is Heather Lynn. I'm your host and the creator of this event. My guest today is Jocelyn Starfeather. I'm so excited to welcome you, Jocelyn.
Thank you so much, Heather. I'm so excited to be a part of your beautiful event. I just love the description of it and all that we'll be exploring throughout your event here.
Oh, thank you so much, Jocelyn, and thank you for joining the summit. I'd like to tell our audience more about you before we dive into your topic. Jocelyn Starfeather is a visibility and thought leadership coach, a spiritual alchemist, and founder of Sacred Planet. She shares shamanic and alchemical wisdom to guide courageous seekers in how we can co-create a revolutionary new world in alignment with Mother Earth and the vast intelligence of the cosmos. After a successful 15-year corporate career working in finance for major multinational companies, Jocelyn was thrust into a deep spiritual awakening. It was that awakening which turned her life upside down, and from which she emerged with a powerful understanding of how to use her intuition and healing abilities, aspects of herself that she'd never had access to before. She dove deeply into earth-based and shamanic practices, and she has studied alongside elders and wisdom keepers ever since. Today, she coaches and guides visionaries, revolutionaries, and change makers all over the world, guiding them to break free from everything that has held them back so they can joyfully offer their highest contribution to our collective future. One of Jocelyn's favorite aspects to her work is guiding soul-led entrepreneurs to bring their important mission and message to a global audience through creating their first online conference or summit. Jocelyn lives in Asheville, North Carolina. Jocelyn's topic is alchemy, excavating the darkness to find the light and treasure within. This is such an important topic right now, so I'm really excited to dive right in. Jocelyn, if we can just start by defining your terms, if you can tell us your understanding of alchemy.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you, Heather, for the beautiful introduction. And again, I'm just so delighted to be here with you today.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so alchemy. This is something I've been studying for many years now, and it is such a fascinating topic to dive into. And it really is very much about beginning in the darkness so that we can emerge into the light. And so alchemy originates from very, very ancient times. It goes back at least to the early stages of ancient Egypt, maybe even before that, right? Possibly from Atlantis or the civilizations that came before the times of Egypt. And it is said to have been handed down to the humans through the god Thoth or Tehuti. Now, however all that happened, right? That's in the distant past, so it's hard to say exactly, right, what happened there. But it was handed down to us, and it's been used in many different ways throughout the ages. And when we hear the word alchemy, we often think of these medieval, kind of pre-chemistry type of people who were trying to turn lead, the actual physical substance of lead, into gold. And so that was one form that it took for a while, a very physical 3D form, right? Working with these physical 3D materials and trying to change them. But the deeper meaning of alchemy and the way that we can use it today that is extremely powerful is really spiritual alchemy. And so there are 7 stages of alchemy. So it's a very systematic process. It's interesting because it's both very scientific and very spiritual at the same time. And we are basically doing experiments on ourselves when we work through the alchemical process. And there are 7 stages that we move through. The first stage is called calcination, and it aligns with the root chakra. And the second stage is called dissolution. It aligns with the sacral chakra, and so on. And we move up through this alchemical stages and up through the chakras. So with the beginning stage, we're beginning with the lead of our human experience, the lead of our spiritual, emotional, psyche experience. We're beginning with very much the subconscious and the ego, the parts of ourselves that tend to hold the densest materials, that like lead, right? Lead is very dense, right? These parts of ourselves, the subconscious and the ego, they tend to hold our limiting beliefs, right? That hold us back, that make us think we're smaller than we really are, or that make us think we're not good enough, or we're, that these certain goals that we have or dreams that we have are not possible. It begins there. And that's really important to the topic I'm speaking about today, because we've got to begin by getting comfortable with the shadow. And that's why so many people's journeys, initiatory journeys, like spiritual awakening journeys, or really life-changing events that occur for us, begin with a dark night of the soul, because we've got to traverse the shadows in order to find the light and the treasure within. So alchemy works with this in a very systematic way. And as we move up from stage 1 to stage 7, from the root chakra to the crown chakra, we are shedding those old dense layers. We are releasing the parts of our ego that are clinging to old patterns, right? Maybe clinging to addictions or clinging to old beliefs that have just really been holding us down. And as we move up, we begin to claim, as we release more and more of who we are not truly, right? Because those dense parts of us, it's not who we really are. It's who we thought we were. It's what we were identifying with that was not true to us. And as we release more and more of that, we're making room for the new beliefs to come in, and for a new lightness and a new perception of who we really are, which is infinite light beings. And so as we move up, you can imagine, to the throat and the third eye and the crown chakra, we're just opening more and more to the light that we really are. So it's a very powerful process, and it's very, very life-changing. I'll say one more thing about an answer to this question. There's an alchemical prayer that I love to share. Because alchemy, as we're shedding the old and allowing and making space for the new, and really letting ourselves receive the new, we have to surrender. Because there's so much more going on than we can possibly verbalize or name, or, like we want to analyze everything as humans. But when we go into an alchemical process, or when life takes us naturally into any kind of initiation or big life changes, we have to surrender. We can't analyze all the layers. There's so many deeper levels of what's happening. So we really have to open up to the universe to send us what we need, because we realize at a certain point that what we thought we needed is actually just a very small version of what's really possible, or what we thought we wanted, right? So the alchemical prayer is, dear universe, please send me all the things that I need the most, that I do not even yet know are possible. Right? And this is what we really open up to in the alchemical journey.
Thank you for sharing. That is such a beautiful prayer, short but powerful, and yes, wonderful. So it really is this paradox, isn't it? I mean, on the one hand, we're talking about ascension as part of the topic, and then shadow. But yes, we as you say, we really have to engage with that. So why is it that do you think the treasure is hidden within the darkness? Why can't it just be easy to find the light?
Yes, that's such a good
or
question.
Just ascend and go up into the higher dimensions.
Just go up and just find all the light. And maybe sometimes it happens that way, but it's fairly rare for it to happen that we just go from our day-to-day earthly existence, and all of a sudden we're just up in the light, and this is why like Buddhist monks and many different ancient traditions, would spend an entire lifetime meditating and sitting in silence and fasting to reach enlightenment, because it's not an easy, or it's not like I can just do this one thing and I'm healed completely, right? As humans, we are here to transmute a lot of density and create a lot of healing through that process. But we have to be real with ourselves and courageously face the shadow in order for that healing to actually reach its highest potential. And in our world today, we are taught and trained and conditioned to not feel the really intense emotions, right? Or to cover up, if we have a dark thought or something disturbing that comes into the mind, we just shove it aside. We're like, oh, that's not who I am. I'm not gonna, right? I don't even want to go there. But we all have that at some time, right? It's a part of the human condition, either really difficult emotions or really complicated feelings about something, or the dark thoughts that come in. And so when we just shove those aside, or if we say, oh, that's not real, or oh, I'm just not going to look at that, it goes deeper into the shadow, and it actually becomes more of something that's holding us back and makes us feel heavier. And as I was starting to say, we're very trained and conditioned in our culture to kind of bypass those things or shove them to the side or escape from them. And so this is why, unfortunately today, so many people find themselves in addictive patterns, whether that's addicted to drugs and alcohol, or addicted to consumerism or food or whatever it is. But it's our deepest inner selves trying to escape from whatever these dark parts are that we're trying to hide from. So it is not easy to do this work, right? But the deepest healing we can possibly experience is to begin looking at our shadows, begin working with them, and begin healing them. And in order to do that, we really have to accept that they're there, right? To fully accept that they're there. Now, I'm speaking to you as someone who I have a lot of Scorpio in my chart, right? So astrologically, Scorpio is the sign of darkness, the mystery, right? What do we want to keep? What are we trying to keep hidden, or what's hidden that we need to bring into the light? So this is something near and dear to my heart. And anybody else who has a lot of Scorpio will probably identify strongly with that, right? There's some of us that may be more comfortable with this. There's others that may be really less comfortable with it. And it's all okay. But we need to know that there is deep, deep power hidden in the shadows. And I would love to say a little bit more about shadow, if you don't mind.
Yes, please. Yeah.
So the shadow is the parts of ourselves that we deny are a part of us, or that we refuse to look at, right? And so, for example, this is something that probably many people listening could really identify with. Many of us had past lives where we were either a shaman or a healer or a witch or a priestess or priest, right? And we were harmed in some way, right? We know that many witches were burned, or we were cast out from the society because we were different. Or we shared our teachings that we knew in our heart to be true, and maybe were killed for that in some past lifetime. And so when we're here sitting in this lifetime today, and we feel, oh, I know I have healing abilities, I want to go help the world with this healing, or I have a deep shamanic intuition, sense that I want to use to help people, or I have an important message I want to share my voice. There's this part inside of us that goes, oh no, never. It's too dangerous. You can't do that. It's life-threatening. Don't do it, right? And so that's one example of the shadow. It's a part of us that we have denied out of survival reasons, right? Originally.
Yeah.
We have denied and repressed and said, that is not going to be a part of me. It's like a contract we make with ourselves. I'm never going to go there again.
Yes.
But now we're living in this time of ascension, right? And all these beautiful topics that you're speaking about here. And it's like, we cannot ignore that soul calling anymore, right? We cannot say, I'm not going to use my healing abilities, because we know those healing abilities are so deeply needed here in the world, right? Or our shamanic or intuitive abilities, or our voice, our message. So we've got to go into that shadow. We've got to look at it and heal it. And again, I will say, there is such deep power hidden there, because the power in this example that's hidden there is all the power of everything you knew as the shaman in that lifetime, or as the witch, right? Or as the midwife or the healer that was outcast from the society, that you buried, that you said, we're never going to use this again. But that is still in you. That is deeply rooted in your ancestral memory, in your bloodlines, in your DNA memory. And so we need to bring all of that forward again today to create a massive turning point for our world.
Right. Yeah, it's so important. And just this whole notion of going through a dark night of the soul and diving into the shadow, can you elaborate on why this is especially important for forging a high frequency pathway? I mean, you've touched on it, but can you elaborate on that and say more?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it is so important for, reaching the high frequency pathway. So these, the dark night of the soul, like you mentioned, we're all going through major initiations right now.
Yeah.
Right? Especially all throughout 2020, and now we're in late 2021. It's going to continue for the next few years at least. We're going to be in really, really deep initiatory times where it's like the forces of the cosmos are calling upon us to change everything. And so this is happening on a larger collective level, where our governments must change. The way we're treating the earth must change. The way that, the division and separation among us as human beings, it's got to change. But it's all being brought up, right? This is the shadow being brought up so that it can be healed. And then it's happening for us individually too. We're having to leave relationships that maybe we've been in for a long, long time, and suddenly realizing, I just can't do this anymore. Or same thing with our careers or where we live, all these different dynamics. So then that thrusts us into a dark night of the soul, because we can't even see the way forward.
Yeah.
We just know that we can't. And this is where I was, as you read in my bio, when my first daughter was born. I could not see the way forward 2 days ahead, even. All I knew was that what I had been doing, which was corporate, moving up the corporate ladder and doing up being a good girl in all the ways that society had told me to be, I knew in my soul I couldn't do that anymore. As I held my little daughter in my arms and looked at her, and I thought, what kind of a world am I modeling for this little one, right? So sometimes we have no idea the way forward. We just know we need to change everything. So we need to trust that we will find the way, right? Because the way will be shown. We need to open up to that. And as we shed that old way, like as I quit my corporate job, right? Or as, maybe we leave that old relationship or leave that town that we just felt like that energy there was just not aligned for us anymore, and we've got to go somewhere else. We're shedding those dense layers. As a society, as we make these massive changes on the collective level, we'll be shedding those dense layers. And the same thing that I mentioned in alchemy, only when we let go of the old patterns, the old density, the old ways of being that are just no longer serving us at all, only then do we have room to let in all the light. So on a very practical level, only when I let go of that old relationship can I have space in my life for this new light-filled, highest level partnership to come in that I've been longing for, right? Or for me, only when I quit my corporate job could I open up my time and my schedule enough to start Sacred Planet and really put my devotion into that and let that take off and and bring its light to the world. So we've got to do this. We've got to look at those dense parts in order to fully ascend, because we can't like raise up, into the light if we're heavy, if we're too heavy. There's in ancient Egypt, there's a really beautiful symbolic representation of this, which is the goddess Ma'at. She represents truth and integrity and natural law and cosmic order. And when you die in ancient Egypt traditions, you would cross over into this in-between space, and your heart would be weighed on the scales of Ma'at. And on one side of the scale is your heart, and on the other side of the scale is her feather. And your heart must be as light as her feather in order for you to move into the beauty of the afterlife. And so this is where we are now, right? We must be lighthearted enough to fully move up into the light. And when we're carrying all this density and shadow and heaviness and, old patterns, we haven't released enough to be that light yet.
Wow, that's such a beautiful analogy. I really love that, the heart and the feather and the density. And so what you're saying is excavating the shadow is really remaking space. We're making space for the light to enter. I think it was Rumi, that beautiful quote.
Yes.
The wound is where the light enters. I might have it slightly wrong, but it's something like that.
Yes.
That's a lovely analogy. So yes, as you say, so important, this work right now. And we really are going through this collective dark night of the soul right now with COVID and everything, all the other shifts that are happening. And one of the vibrations of this collective process is fear. It really is very strong on the planet at the moment. How can we work with fear and transcend it?
Yes. Fear is something that it has been really, really present in my life, my entire lifetime. I have been fearful. I can remember even as a little kid being afraid something would happen to my mom would die. For whatever reason, I had these fears from very early, and it's translated into other things as I got older. So it's interesting. I think with a lot of Scorpio, again, maybe this is something I'm here to work with in this lifetime, right?
Yeah.
So I've done a lot of work, deep work with fear, and not only my own, but also clients, right, who are coming to me with similar kinds of things, and we need to find a way. And it is not easy. It's very trickstery, actually, because you'll think you healed it over here, and then it pops up again over here, right? And so if any of us have these deep fears, like what I mentioned earlier, like a fear of being visible with your healing work or your message, it goes so deep because it goes back generations and past lives, through many different, many millennia, really. So it's very deep. So we need to first recognize how deep it is, how deeply rooted it can be in us. But then with fear, we actually have to go toward it. This is something that John Perkins talks about so beautifully in his book, which is called Touching the Jaguar. And it's based on a belief of the Amazonian people, the Achuar people in the Amazon rainforest, that whatever you're most afraid of, you have to go toward it. And so they call that touching the jaguar, right? And so this is the shaman who is, just building and strengthening his courage and the amount of light he's able to hold, right? Because he has to do the healing work for the whole community. In the middle of the night, he goes and he will find a jaguar and go up to it and touch it and then come back home. Right? So this is, now that seems a little intimidating. Luckily, we don't actually have a jaguar. But it's a really good kind of symbolic look at what's required here. Yeah. So we've got to go toward what we fear. One of my big things in this lifetime has been a fear of traveling. I have panic attacks on like planes, trains, and automobiles. And it's something like, it's going too fast. It's not natural. It's not connected to the earth. It's some really deeply rooted thing that I'm still working with. But I travel a lot, actually, because of that. Like there's just something in my soul saying, got to go toward this. You have to travel. And then travel ends up opening all these other worlds of my, my work, going to Egypt and Greece and different, moving to Nashville. So that's just an example. So think of this in your own life, everybody who's listening, right? What is your deepest fear? And then recognizing that in this lifetime, we are very safe. We're very protected by the kind of laws and norms of society. Like, we're not going to be burned at the stake as a witch, even if we are, we can be a witch, right? We can be a shaman. Those things are safe. And also just recognizing how protected we are by our guides and by the universal forces at this time that want us to heal and ascend. And really entering into a space of asking ourselves, what can I do to take a step toward this fear?
Right. Yeah.
And so if you're meant to be a healer, but you haven't stepped out yet with your healing work, well, there's your assignment.
Yes.
And I really consider this something that we need to spend a lot of time on. If we have big fears, that we need to spend a lot of time with this in deep meditation and connecting with our guides, and ask the universe for the sacred instructions for how do I go toward this in a really good aligned way that's not too much for me to handle at any moment, but that will let me move toward the fear. And what happens then, so if you're a healer and you haven't come out yet with your work, maybe you take the steps toward that could be very different depending on who you are and what your situation is, right? But eventually then you do actually start a healing practice, and you do actually begin sharing your beautiful gifts with people, and you see the transformation on the other side of that, right? On the other side of stepping into your fear, this is where we find our deepest power, really and truly.
Yes.
It's the same thing for me with traveling and these worlds that have opened up and completely shifted my perspective of reality. Studying ancient Egypt will do that. But you're a healer and you see the impact that your work has, and you see people's lives being changed, and you realize you're assisting in raising the vibration for all of us by doing this work, right? Just think how beautiful it is on the other side. And I think this is helpful for us in thinking about our fears, right? Kind of really creating a big, beautiful vision for what's on the other side once this is healed, or even if it's not fully healed yet, but I dare to go there. I dare to have the courage to take that action. What is possible?
Yes.
And it's amazing. And it's like infinite possibilities on the other side of that, because again, that's truly where we find our deepest power.
Thank you. I think that's such a good thing to remember, is that we find our power, as you said, the treasures, when we step towards it or work with our fears. So thank you for that. Are you able, we've got some time left, are you able to guide us on a shamanic journey to explore the underworld and connect with the treasures hidden there?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. And it is interesting, right? In your event, I don't know if anybody else here is talking about the underworld. It seems like the opposite direction of where we're trying to go, right?
Oh, the shadows come up a few times, make no mistake.
Okay,
we haven't
good.
specifically gone into the underworld.
So yeah, I just want to tell everybody, don't be afraid to go into the underworld, right? This is exactly what we're talking about. Don't, go towards your fear. Don't be afraid, go towards your shadow, because there's such deep healing there. So let's take a really beautiful journey into the underworld.
Yeah, wonderful.
Okay. So if anybody has, a drum beat or meditation music that you like to listen to while you're meditating or shamanic journeying, that'd be wonderful. I can also provide a link, Heather. Maybe that's just an easy YouTube link that could go below the interview if people want to listen to a drum beat. The reason for that is just the drum beat helps us to drop into a theta brainwave state where we can really just drop into the, become one with the higher intelligence of the universe and receive those visions and messages. So I highly recommend a drum beat if you can access one. So everybody, just go ahead and get really comfortable where you are. And maybe you want to lay down to be comfortable. Maybe you want to be moving around the room. That's fine. Or maybe you just want to sit with your spine straight. And however you would like to be positioned, just go ahead and close your eyes now. And let's bring our attention to our breath. So place one hand on your heart and take a deep breath into your heart space. And really become aware that you are breathing in the oxygen and the sunlight and all of these magical elements that surround us every day. So fill up and then release that breath, maybe making a sound on the out breath if that feels right to you. And just continue with this deeper, slower rhythm of breathing, really filling up your heart space and your heart chakra with all of that sunlight and oxygen and beauty every time. And then I invite you to imagine yourself in a beautiful place in nature where you can be barefoot on the earth and the sun is shining brightly on your face. And feel those bare feet of yours on the earth and allow yourself to send some roots down, connecting with Mother Earth and sending those roots all the way down to her core. And then wrapping around the core of Mother Earth, feeling her heartbeat in that core, and then allowing yourself to receive the energy of unconditional love that Mother Earth is going to send back up to you through those roots. And you may see this as light, as swirling light, maybe purple or green light. And just know that you're receiving this highest vibrational, unconditional love energy from the earth. Let that come up through your roots, in through the soles of your feet, and then raise up throughout your body into all your chakras, filling you up, enlivening you, recalibrating you to this energy of unconditional love. Just breathe in this beautiful energy for a few breaths. And then keeping those roots connected and the beautiful energy from the earth flowing into you, raise your arms now up to the sky and let your palms be lifted up toward the sun and toward the cosmos, and allow the golden light of the highest intelligence of the universe to flow from the sun and the stars and the planets in through the palms of your hands, down through your arms and into your body. And then allow that beautiful golden energy to circulate all throughout you. Again, this is the energy of the highest intelligence, the energy of creation, all the galaxies, all the stars. So breathe in this energy from the cosmos, the energy from the earth. Let it light you up and enliven you on all levels. And then when you're ready, put your arms back down. Maybe pick up your feet and move a little bit there in your beautiful place in nature, and know that you're still connected to the earth and cosmos. You're still receiving from them, but you can also move about. And then call to your side a guide. And just trust whoever shows up first. This may be an angel, maybe an animal, maybe a plant, maybe a star, an ancestor. Really trust whoever it is and greet them and thank them for showing up here, and thank them for guiding and protecting you on your journey today. And then just lean into your guide and see if they have a message for you here now before we travel to the underworld. Ask your guide if there is a message. Just see what they have to say. When you receive that message from your guide, just tuck it into your heart. Keep it with you in your heart always. And then together with your guide, you're going to look around for a way to go downward into the earth. So this may be a little cave that you find. This may be a hollow at the bottom of a tree. Wherever you see an entryway downward into the earth, just trust it. And together with your guide, go ahead and dive in. It might be a body of water that you jump in and swim down to the bottom. Whatever it is, just know that you're safe. And go ahead and enter into the underworld. And as you travel downward, you might be traveling through tunnels here under the earth. You'll come to a gate. And it's a very tall gate. It's a bit foreboding. And at this gate stands the god Osiris. Now, this is the Egyptian god of the underworld, and he is a very benevolent god. And he is welcoming you here into the underworld today in order to learn more about your deepest, deepest power. So he opens the gate for you and he smiles encouragingly as you pass through. And as you enter in, you immediately come into a low chamber where you actually have to duck down, or maybe even you have to crawl through. And then suddenly there are these little beings all around you that are kind of grabbing at you. And it's a bit uncomfortable. So really trust this process. These beings are coming up to you and they're taking away the shadows. They're taking away the parts of you, the old patterns, maybe the addictions that you no longer need. So allow them to do this because they are lightening you. They are releasing you from burdens that you've carried for a very, very long time. So take a deep breath in, recentering, regrounding. And notice that you feel a little lighter. Continue crawling through this chamber, and these little beings are going to continue to kind of poke and prod at you and remove what you no longer need. And then you're coming to the end of this chamber, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel here. You're moving into brighter space. And these little beings, finally, they leave you alone. They kind of run off, chuckling as they're carrying your heavy burdens away. And you turn to your guide and you say, wow, that was pretty intense. What did they just remove from me? And your guide is going to tell you what was removed. So go ahead and lean in and listen to what your guide will share. And just really take that in and know that these are the important aspects that you really didn't need anymore. They were very important for you to shed, to be able to be lighter, freer, more joyful. And maybe upon hearing this, you do a little jump or a little wiggle, like with the lightness, right? Really trust how your body feels as you're shedding these old things. And then let your guide take you into the next chamber, which is extremely bright and filled with light. And there seems to be light streaming in from everywhere, which is weird because you're underground, but just trust this process. And you realize the light coming in is in every color of the rainbow. So there's silver and gold light, but there's also red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, fuchsia, every color of the rainbow. And just put your arms out and even maybe open your stance a bit and just let this light flow into every pore of your being. Breathe it in Drink it in. Let your cells open up to receive it fully. Just let yourself be completely filled with the full spectrum of light. And again, feel your increased lightness from within. And then turn to your guide and ask your guide, what is all this light that I'm receiving? And just go ahead and listen to what your guide will say. And now your guide is going to take you into the third and final room here. Now in this place, there is a goddess sitting on a throne. And she looks very powerful and very wise. You ask her name, and she tells you that her name is Inanna. And you stand there in her presence, and you see that this being is one who has fully claimed her power. And you ask her, Inanna, can you please tell me, what is my deepest power within that I need to unlock in this lifetime, that I am here to share with the world? And she smiles at you and she tells you. So go ahead and listen. Listen to Inanna tell you of your deepest, greatest power. And then she's going to hand you a gift. So just put your hands out, having received what she told you about her power. Now she's going to place in your hands a small gift. So let her place that in your hands and just gaze at it for a moment and notice what it is. And it may not be clear, all the meaning around this, but whatever this gift is, it symbolizes your power. So just say yes to this gift. Say yes to your power. Go ahead and place this gift in your heart. And then thank Inanna for her messages and for this beautiful treasure that she gave you. And then together with your guide, you're going to leave the underworld now. You're going to travel back up through the earth and find yourself standing once again in that beautiful place in nature where you began. And so once again, turning to your guide, thank your guide for protecting you today, for taking you on this journey. And then ask your guide, what should I do now with what I've learned here today? What is the next step? Just listen to hear your guide's answer. And now your guide is going to leave. Now just know that you can come back and connect with this guide anytime you wish. But for now, let them go. And then allow yourself to begin moving out of that beautiful place in nature and back into the present moment. Returning to your breath, take a deep breath in, breathing all the way fully into your heart, expanding your heart with that sunlight and oxygen and beauty of all that surrounds us. And then release that breath and go ahead and open your eyes. And I do recommend getting your journal or your notebook and writing down any important messages here so that you will be sure to remember them before they fade.
Thank you, Jocelyn. That was really powerful. I kind of feel like I'm still coming back.
I do too. It came from another place. Very much so.
Need to sort of take a moment. But yeah, thank you. That's really, really such a powerful practice, and always yields so much when we do take the time to go within like that. So just to end off, Jocelyn, can I ask about your work going forward? I know you've just run an amazing retreat in Greece, but is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience about projects coming up or programs, anything?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just recommend going to my website, which is weare, so WEARE, sacredplanet.com. And just check out what I have there. The online courses page has so many beautiful options for wherever you are in your journey. And some of those are free and some are donation based. So there's a lot accessible there. And we also, my dear friend Taria Ward and we hold a monthly dreaming symposium, which is basically a global dream group. So you'll find that easily from my website too. And that's a free community event. So just come over and check it out and see what calls to you on my site.
Great, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot there. And you also have a free gift for our audience. It's called Venturing into the Great Cosmic Ocean, Awakening the Starry Knowledge Within You. Sounds fabulous. Can you tell us more about it?
Yes, absolutely. So this is a video presentation, and it is a really powerful first workshop part where I'm going to share with you a little bit about mythology and how that ties into the stars and the constellations that we see in the sky at night, and then how powerful it is to go and venture and journey out into the stars and see what we find there. Maybe our star families, maybe deep wisdom that we had forgotten, and now it's time to remember. And this also brings in a little bit of alchemy during that workshop. And then toward the end of the workshop, I will guide you on a really powerful mythical and magical shamanic journey. So it's a beautiful experience. So would love to have you all go out and experience that free gift and just have a lot of fun with it. It takes you way into the other realms and other dimensions, and it's very magical.
Great, that sounds truly amazing. And for the audience, you'll definitely want to claim your free gift. You just need to scroll down beneath this video and you'll see Jocelyn's free gift and the button. Just click the button and it'll take you right through to where you can claim it. So Jocelyn, I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing all this wonderful information. It's been so great to talk to you.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much, Heather. And thank you again for creating this beautiful, beautiful, much needed gathering.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's been my pleasure. And I just want to end off by thanking the audience for co-creating the space and for joining us today. So thank you. And I'm sending love and light out to everybody.